There's no small debate regarding the origins and essence of Bigfoot. What is he? Hundreds, if not even thousands, of theories have been offered. But over the course of time, 3 dominant views have emerged as the most popular consensus. Bigfoot represents a previously undiscovered species of hominid. This notion, initially, appears plausible considering the vast expanse of dense forest and remote mountains where such creatures could potentially reside. However, sustaining a viable population becomes problematic. Among the Lakota and Ojibwe communities, Bigfoot is viewed as a spirit guide and messenger, signaling the necessity for change or purification. Believed to exist in a separate dimension, these entities can manifest in our reality when compelled to do so. Researchers eventually observed a peculiar correlation between Bigfoot sightings and unusual aerial phenomena. This led to the speculative theory suggesting that Bigfoot's elusive nature stems from its arrival via a spaceship, leaving behind footprints before departing. However, the connection extends beyond mere statistical observation. In certain instances, Bigfoot appears to be influenced or controlled by another extraterrestrial species. Numerous reports describe aliens emerging from vast, hovering, disc-shaped UFOs and strolling into the forest, accompanied by a towering, hairy, ape-like creature which exhibits signs of subservience towards them.
Bigfoot confirmed.
Bigfoot, and I cannot emphasize this enough.
Confirmed. Yeah. So these are the 3 most popular views. We're not saying it's the 3 of our views.
Right.
But these are very popular views. If you look into Bigfoot, look into videos, look into podcasts, look at all that, they usually fall into some variation of one of those 3. What do you think?
Oh, man. So the first thing that I think is helpful to do is address the question of whether or not Bigfoot is just an animal. Some kind of hominid type ape species that we haven't found yet.
I like how you didn't even start with whether Bigfoot actually exists at all.
Oh, well, I mean,
like, we're not such dollars that we don't believe Bigfoot exists at all.
Here's the thing, viewer. If you're watching this and you don't believe that Bigfoot exists,
what are you doing?
I don't know what to do.
Well,
I can't help you.
And I have to, I need to be honest and confess. First time Ben talked to me about Bigfoot, I was like, no.
You're
Are
like,
you
there's no
kidding
such
me?
thing.
That was recent. Joel.
First time it was 7 months ago. That's recent.
That's recent.
But a lot can, you can get radicalized. In
A lot can change.
These days in the 2020s.
Memes alone.
Yeah, in the 2020s, you can go, yeah. So anyways.
Anyway,
Right,
sorry,
so
Ben.
we're going to make the blanket assumption that Bigfoot
Let's just assume, first of all, let's just assume what is obvious
and the
to
thing
everybody.
is that's not a big assumption. That's
that's
an obvious
I
presupposition.
firmly believe that because of the number of eyewitness accounts that I think are credible that have seen this, and not only that, but also across folklore
Yes.
for thousands of years and across continents, I do believe that Bigfoot is a real thing. The question is, what is it?
Functionally a Bigfoot character,
Yes.
probably not called Bigfoot because that's the most walkie-talkie type name that you could ever
Yeah,
come up with.
walkie, I talkie.
It's a walkie-talkie.
It's a big.
It has a big foot.
foot.
It's Bigfoot. But most cultures have a Sasquatch type character, Yeti, etc.
Skunk ape.
Yeah, skunk
Beast of
ape.
Bray Road. Abominable snowman.
Yeah,
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Yeti. Yep, said that one.
Oh, you did. Sorry.
Sasquatch is another one.
Right. There's
Sasquatch.
There's also Sasquatch.
There's Sasquatch too.
Harry
Saskatchewan?
in the Hendersons.
It's actually a place.
So no, Sasquatchewan.
Dude, we're
So,
locked in right now.
I
Go
think
ahead.
that I think that the helpful thing to do is first settle where we stand on whether or not it's an animal or something else.
Yeah, can I weigh in a little bit on
Oh,
that?
please,
Ben?
man.
Is that fine? Because I do agree. The big, if you're doing a genus of ideas here, physical animal merely on the level of a bear, a Labrador retriever, an otter, or a platypus. There are weird things in God's world. One of those things I just mentioned in that list has a bill, is a mammal, lays eggs, has a poisonous spur on its foot. That's a real thing. It's called a platypus. So before we say like there's no way, obviously there's a way.
Please see exhibit platypus.
Second, it could be any spiritual thing at all. And then it's a whole big bucket of worms that we can get into. I do, although, want to say that I heard a compelling view that has given me pause in my conclusion that it was real and a spiritual, which is already, that's my published opinion. Everyone knows that, is that it's real and it's spiritual. There's actually another option that I've found recently somewhat compelling. And it's the idea that there was such a creature that was an animal that was similar, or at least the idea or the inspiration, that has died off in the last few centuries in North America, at least, that there was a population of these creatures that really was an animal, and that also latched on to the animal in a similar way that we have with dragons and with other creatures that are really physical animals that did exist or do exist, and that they were particularly usable vehicles for spiritual deception. And that now the native population has died off in North America, maybe as recently as the second half of the 20th century. And that now all that is a spiritual deception. Ben, what do you think about that?
That just seems so
Joel,
convoluted.
Dragons? That's what we think about dragons?
It makes
Yeah,
a
it makes a ton of
sense.
sense
I think
for dragons because it's a dragon, but you don't hear Satan coming to Eve like, I'm a big hairy man.
Hang on, though.
Enkidu.
No, but think about the
Well,
usefulness
not coming
of
to
this as
Eve,
evolutionary
but
code.
coming to Native Americans.
The reason
That's what I'm, Joel, think.
part of the reason
We're
that
locked
I
in.
that I
not
stick
crazy.
with the real and spiritual.
Actually, I don't know if I believe what I just heard it. It made me think, like, what if that's a genuine
guy's
possibility?
The guy
It's
sounded
possible.
so confident.
Dude, it's on the chart of things that could,
No,
like
yeah.
the big wall with the strings.
Yeah,
and, I am worked
You
up
see there
right
slick.
now.
It could be that
guys.
But anyway,
I just think so. The reason that I stick with the real part, part of the reason that I stick with the real spiritual is because of the Gilgamesh story with Enkidu.
Yeah.
As far back as the earliest
wild
written
man.
story in the world, we have the wild man who's made by the gods.
Yeah.
Who are clearly, by the way, demons.
they're demons.
So I'm sticking with that partly because of the Gilgamesh.
With the animal view, just real quickly, you have figures in the Bigfoot research world today like Jeffrey Meldrum et al. And their basic theory is that Bigfoot is some kind of hominid, and Gigantopithecus, Australopithecus, these kind of large evolutionary byway between a Neanderthal or some pre-human into Homo sapiens. And they will very seriously pursue this as a physical creature. And this is one of the reasons that I think the deception is, it's so Swiss Army knife. It can be, look, I have a way that I can deceive modern Americans with this Bigfoot thing.
Yeah. Right.
And also
Evolution's true.
as a nature spirit to the Ojibwe and the gullible people that I descend from, and the Chippewa. And,
multi-purpose, yeah.
It's a multi-purpose
I can
tool.
get the
You see what I'm
Darwinian
saying?
stupid moderns,
Darwinian,
and I can also
yeah.
get the peyote
the stupidest ancients in the world.
weeded out.
We
yeah.
can get my people. No, we can. That's one of the reasons that I think that this is such a common trope and common spiritual deception is because of this evolutionary link that can be used so conveniently to deceive moderns. What better way to convince modern evolutionary Americans or
Then to
anywhere
show
than
them allegedly.
look,
the
here's a
missing link.
living missing link.
Right. Yeah.
It's clearly intelligent. It's clearly related to our family tree of
Right.
upright bipedal ape creatures, but it's not quite either.
Right.
Convenient. Convenient.
Would there be anything that could convince you that it is just an animal?
Oh yeah, like I said, I actually think it's compelling that there may even have been an animal like this.
What would it take? Because I think that the thing that I would accept is that originally the Bigfoot was the dweller of Hollow Earth exclusively.
Okay, wow, we just took a left turn.
What I love about this, real quick before we go down, because we got to go down.
I'm not ready to go
We
down.
need to spelunk.
Yeah, we need to
this
spelunk.
theory. But what I love about it is that Ben just like laughed at Brian for a good bit with his
Yeah,
theory.
like pretty aggressively.
and he's like, now let's get serious.
Now, guys, look,
All jokes aside,
Brian,
my
you're
view
what a dollar.
is that he exclusively lived in Hollow Earth. By the way, By the way, I got a plug real quick. Go check out our Hollow Earth
our Hollow Earth episode.
It's probably our longest episode.
Yeah.
And it's Mondo and it's primary water. It's Hollow Earth. It's Shield. It's dragons. It's sea serpents. And we have a second Hollow Earth episode only available as bonus content for Patreon supporters.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Hollow Earth.
So
That is a great point, though. I said there could have been a native population of these creatures that the Bigfoot, that the demons later used as in like a tool to deceive, that lived in North America, which, by the way, North America, a place we know exists.
Hollow Earth also
You
also
laughed.
knows
We
this.
know Hollow
You laughed,
Earth
and then the
exists.
next thing
We
you
don't
said
know.
was,
We don't know to what degree. We know it exists.
you were like, what a silly theory. Now, they might have lived in Hollow Earth.
I'm just saying, you know how
Go
we
off.
do believe
Go, look,
in-
go off,
in
go
Hollow
off,
Earth.
King.
Okay, look, here's what I'm and look, maybe this gets into I don't want to jump ahead. This might touch on the fairy subject and it may be a distinction without a difference, but I'm going to go for it anyway.
Okay.
I'm thinking of this right now.
Okay.
Okay, and you raise a fair point. I'm going to say that. but what if it was a Hollow Earth dweller exclusively?
Okay.
In the same way
Love
that, that Ransom and Paralandra saw the creatures under the earth and thought, oh no, they're never going to know that they have a king. And then he's like, nah, they're just there because God likes them. What if that was supposed to be the thing?
But then Richard Byrd.
But well,
Found
no,
him.
but then we fell.
Then we fell. We fell.
and all of the world fell with us, and so they primarily still dwell
in the
Hollow
words of
Earth.
Gimli, he fell. Gimli,
Also in the words of Gimli, toss me.
I cannot jump the distance.
Don't tell the other.
Very dangerous over short distances.
Salton Park. Let's just quote Gimli for the rest of the show. Anyway, and then I don't.
Are you not entertained? Okay, go ahead.
And then what if, as dwellers of the Hollow Earth, you know what? I'm gonna stop. I mean,
No, keep going. You're in.
No, they
like-
came up. This would explain the
No,
one
here's
that's
the
like
thing.
this would explain the one that's like Lord
learn
bless.
the lesson. Learn the lesson because all this is unhinged. I'm here for it, and it may be true, but it would have you would have had a lot more sympathy if you hadn't just dogged his very
bro.
reasonable.
That's why I was gonna stop.
Possibilities.
So, but what if, as a Hollow Earth dweller, and maybe actually, maybe the same could be said for dragons. I'm about to propose just
There you
as
go.
ridiculous
Let's
as a
just,
theory as
like,
that.
A
Meta
Hollow Earth
theory.
dweller and a primary water drinker.
Right.
Yeah.
So and maybe they were sort of a spiritual animal, where they're primarily spirit, but they have no reasonable soul.
Let me just say this, Ben. First of all,
And then they manifest as big feet.
the idea that an animal could have strange abilities like the ability to cloak itself, which is, I didn't make that up. That's something that people talk about a lot with Bigfoot. It can cloak.
Well, a chameleon can do that.
Yeah, I was about to say, just
Right.
like look at the things we know animals can already do.
Right.
Before you laugh at the idea that an unknown animal could do something crazy.
and then say
like,
the same thing but crazier.
let's say something really crazy. Yeah. So I think we're kind of circling around it a little bit, but for us, this just really isn't plausibly at least a primarily physical phenomenon. It's probably I think it's real, but maybe
But with a unique spiritual component.
I think it's
some of the
spiritual,
maybe some
primarily.
of the stories though, like one or two of why people even think it a physical creature might be helpful, like Ostman
Yeah.
in his kidnapping by Bigfoot. Real
Yeah.
quick, this was like what, 1920s?
It was sometime in the 20th century. I think it was later than that.
Early, yeah, like
He was a prospector who was on vacation, and he took his vacation in the Canadian backcountry.
Yeah.
And he's out there camping or whatever. And every night for like 3 nights, he's thinking, someone is rummaging through my stuff while I
Yeah.
sleep. Because he'll wake up and everything is like strewn about. But nothing has hurt him. And
not
so
like a bear would do though.
Right. So he's
Yeah.
thinking it's some person, some hobo is coming in taking my stuff while I'm sleeping. So the next night he decides to stay up with his rifle in hand, and he's going to stay up all night, and he's going to shoot this thing or scare it away. Maybe not just outright kill it immediately. But he ends up falling asleep, wakes up from the same sounds, and sees that it is a Bigfoot. And he was actually a known and public Bigfoot denier at the time. Publicly denied Bigfoot multiple times before this. The Bigfoot kidnaps him,
Yeah, throws it over in his sleeping bag.
throws him over his shoulder in his sleeping bag. So he's like bouncing around in his sleeping bag. He's, the Bigfoot is running and jumping over ridges and stuff, moving very fast. eventually throws him down on the ground, and he uncovers himself to find that he is surrounded by a family of Bigfoot.
Yes. Bigfoots.
And there's a wife and a husband, and there's 2 children. And for the next 5 days,
It's like a week.
it's 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
He is sitting there with them. He's fed substances. He's given sweet water to drink.
They eat all his dip.
Interestingly,
That's really
he's
interesting.
given really good water.
Don't they eat his dip?
Well, no, that's how he escapes. So he's like, I really want to get out of here, not because I'm afraid anymore, but
He's
because
like, I got stuff to do.
I have
Right.
a job.
Right.
And so the dad Bigfoot or whatever, the one that actually took him, is rummaging through his knapsack and finds his bag of snuff and just starts eating it.
The whole thing. Just
and the Bigfoot gets violently ill.
Yeah.
And
as
so
one does.
That'll do.
Yeah.
And so the mother is out like gathering berries or something.
Yeah, you
And
don't
the-
want to eat it.
And the children come and care for the father. And so the Ostman just runs away. And he eventually stumbles on a road, heralds a truck.
It's like the Goonies when they take all the dip and then they go on the carnival rides.
Yeah.
That's what happened to the Bigfoot.
That's actually Sandlot.
So here's the other, Sandlot. That's
Not
what I
the
meant.
Goonies.
Here's the other thing.
Dude.
That was my bad.
Goonies never say die.
My bad. My bad.
Real quick, before we continue with the show, you need to be aware that you're merely watching one episode of what's actually a 10-part series covering all things under the banner of high strangeness. The 10 episodes include the following. Number 1, the lost city of Atlantis has just recently been discovered. Episode number 2, Hollow Earth, the last living dragons, and primary water. Episode number 3, biblical giants, their clans, sizes, and supernatural abilities. Episode number 4, mythological giants. Hercules was actually a Nephilim. Episode number 5, everyone has been wrong about Bigfoot. Episode number 6, fairies, the elemental spirits. Episode number 7, the biblical case for the existence of mermaids. Episode number 8, ghost. That's not your grandma, that's a demon. Episode number 9, witches, necromancy, and familiar spirits. And lastly, episode 10, angels, their classifications, physicality, and sexes. Now, all 10 of these episodes are available ad-free right now, exclusively on Patreon. These episodes are only dropping one at a time over a series of multiple weeks, but you can get them all available today, ad-free, plus the addition of 2 exclusive bonus episodes at patreon.com/Right Response Ministries. Again, it's exclusively found at patreon.com/Right Response Ministries. Go and check them out today. And now, back to our program.
So the other, that seems like here's a family unit, clearly an animal, according to the story.
Right.
Second piece of evidence I would point to in favor of the animal theory.
Also
Again,
an animal with a lot of intelligence.
right?
That's a key point.
And none of this. It could all still be a deception, but in favor of the animal. The other one is, and people might not know this. There is only one piece of evidence that has been film evidence that has been scrutinized more than this piece of evidence, and it would be the Zapruder film of the JFK assassination. The second most scrutinized piece of film evidence in history is the PGF, the Patterson-Gimlin film, which is like 1,000 frames, or it's a very small number of frames on a camera, a real camera, that seemed to capture about a 6.5 foot tall female Bigfoot.
Right.
It's the famous scene where you've seen the looking back
we've
over
all
his shoulder.
seen-
Well, and this is the one that supposedly she has the male would have a crest, but she has a hairdo, a beehive hairdo.
No, she doesn't.
Have you read that?
She has breasts.
She's
Right, I know, but I'm talking about crest. Not
she
breast.
has a crest
on her. Well,
Does she?
right, but I've heard some theories that say, well, this doesn't make sense because the crest would be on the head would be belonging to the male, but she has breasts. She's clearly a female.
Oh.
And so
You're talking about
she's-
sagittal crest?
And so she's highly intelligent because that's not actually a crest. Upon closer examination, she has her hair did.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
she
funny.
has a weave.
She's a girl.
She's extra feminine.
Yeah, she's like, ooh.
right.
And,
Fair enough.
and the thing is, you can laugh at it if you see it initially. You can look up a stabilized YouTube
If you see it,
version
you're
of
gonna think,
you'll be
that's
like, oh,
fake.
silly. But there are we talked about it in our multi-part Bigfoot series we did on Haunted Cosmos. You can look up to, 13 hours on Astonishing Legends podcast. They examine the Patterson-Gimlin film and point to some very compelling reasons why it'd be highly difficult for it to be a suit at the time that it was made.
It would be all but impossible.
All but impossible.
Genuinely.
And they have the premier costume designer on the show, on the Astonishing Legends episodes, who designed the Planet of the Apes costumes. We're talking about, at that time, $100,000 costumes.
The cutting edge.
That are hide suits still. They don't have spandex at this time that can flex. There are features in the film itself that are very difficult to explain by costume design. And
there's muscles jostling as she walks.
Also at a time period that today, any film evidence you can't believe. Just period. You cannot believe film evidence today because of CGI and what we can do. In this was at a period of time when that was not possible.
Right.
So it's this golden era, really, where you really could have film or photograph evidence.
And it meant something.
And even audio evidence with the Sierra sounds.
Oh, right.
That is, which we don't have time to get into. But just understand that when I say that I even allow for the possibility that there was some kind of population of actual physical creature that maybe was used and has been used as a vehicle.
Let's not play the Sierra sounds.
No.
Let's perform. That was really good.
It's like language.
Great. That's really much
Just to say, it's
you're-
not totally
you're all
silly.
You're welcome.
You're all welcome.
It's not totally silly to say
You say that after we just did the Sierra sounds.
that it could.
No,
that
you're
there
right.
could
No,
be a
you're right.
physical animal is not a like. I know Christians who still do believe that there are aspects of it that may be deceptive or whatever. That also think,
Yeah.
But there could be some kind of. It's not out of the realm of possibility. God did some crazy things.
Crazy things.
What are some stories that help us confirm in our minds that it's not?
Ben, thank you.
Because I have
just
one that I
segueing.
really
Wait,
want.
that
I
it's
think-
not just what?
It's not just physical.
Oh.
It's not just but there's
Ben,
something more.
I think you need to lead us into this because when you start uncovering the evidence for why you should think that this is not just a physical phenomenon, it gets compelling.
Now, a couple disclaimers. Everything in this is eyewitness testimony.
And you
And
just
it's
can't.
fallible, okay? But at some point, when you start to mount eyewitness testimony with common denominators from people that did not have exposure to this beforehand, you actually start to get a compelling argument.
And very little, like people who have professional lives that are not
That are
aided
not-
by being associated with Bigfoot
In
sightings,
fact, their
you know?
careers or their reputations are hurt by this.
Like people that then go on to be like, I'm not talking about this anymore.
Right.
I'm sick of it.
So one of the most compelling stories that I've heard, and the reason it's so compelling is because not only is it an eyewitness testimony, but it's from someone who is in our sort of circles on Twitter, at least.
Yeah.
This is an evangelical Christian woman, and she was interviewing a friend of hers for a blog that she has. And this story came up where this guy claimed that his dad oftentimes would go on Bigfoot hunts when he was younger. And his dad he got more and more obsessed with it, And so finally his son was like, I would like to go with you because I want to be with my dad. I want to be into what my dad's into, every son. And so his dad's like, let's go. And so they go out there and the father tells the son, okay, here's what you got to look out for. We're going to, once it gets dark, we're going to turn the fire. We're going to douse the fire completely. And we're going to immediately get into our sleeping bags, open air. We're sleeping under the stars. That's how you have to do it. And once the smoke dies down and you just start to begin falling asleep, you'll start to hear sounds and then you will know that they're here. And sure enough, okay, the kid he's like, I was 12 years old. I was reasonable. I know that this happened. The smoke died down. I was not close to falling asleep. My dad was wrong about that. But I heard the pitter patter of feet coming up, and they were like big feet. I saw black eyes looking down at me. They didn't reflect light. I felt smaller feet stomping on me, not in a way that was like they're trying to injure, but like a kid playing almost. Like really bizarre. And that was it. Okay, that was it. And so the girl who's doing this interview is like, all right, I got to talk to the dad. And so she finds the dad. And at the time, he no longer was doing any of this. And she was curious as to why. And he said that the last time he ever went on a Bigfoot expedition was the last time because he realized that it was demonic. He finally understood. And what happened was he went out with a group of other Bigfoot researchers or searchers, whatever. And they're going, and it's the Oregon wilderness, okay? And they're sitting under the stars. It's the same setup that he had with his son. But what's interesting is that during the trip, he had hurt his arm really bad. Like, tore a ligament in his elbow, something genuinely really painful. Would have been a trip ender, except that everyone else said, no, let's still do it. Trust us. And so he goes into this, they do all the setup correctly, and they tell him that when you see the Bigfoot, or when you know that it's there, think in your mind and ask it to heal your arm.
The people with him tell him that?
The people with him
These
tell him.
other experienced.
The other experienced researchers. And so he's like, okay. And so he goes to, they do the thing. He's starting to fall asleep. He knows that they're there, and he wakes back up. And he's fully alert. And he can see some of the shadows walk, and he starts to think in his mind, please, if you can, heal my arm. And he feels one of them touch his arm, and it's healed. It's done. And he wakes up the next morning, and he can move it all around. He can do everything that he wouldn't have been able to do the day before.
He was widowy doing the Gwitty.
Widowy doing the Gwitty. And so they start hiking off the trail. He's kind of freaked out because he's like, that's a little intense. And he's asking one of the other guys, like, how did you know? And the guy said, that's how they get you in. They tagged you now, and they know you now. And so you can summon them anytime you want.
Ugh.
They've picked you. And as he's saying this, his friend is saying this, he looks up and he sees orbs following them through the trees, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah, you see this, and
There's usually a connection with
and
them.
you
light,
pointed this out: light
Yeah, they called
phenomena,
up-
orb
Yes.
phenomena, even UAP.
And so then, this is where the story ends.
Oh, I think I've heard this.
Yeah, it's
From you.
wild. So then he gets back home.
At home.
Yes. And he starts to get really concerned about this. And he is not comfortable with the fact that they've tagged him and he's chosen and they're around him all the time. And
Yeah, because thus far, it's always, I go to them if I want.
Yep.
But now it's like, they've got a tracker device on me in my elbow, or whatever. Like
You belong.
And so he's trying to test it. And so in order to test it, he sets a cot out by the shed in his backyard. And he just kind of says, I'm going to be here tonight. Come find me. If you're really there, come find me. And then he gets a call on his phone, and his son, who's old now, is like, hey, come see your grandkids play basketball at the church tonight, And so whatever, he goes and he comes back, he's tired, and he's like, I'll go out there tomorrow night. I want to get some sleep. And in the middle of the night, the shed starts shaking, and he hears the ladders that are inside falling over. And it's this loud crashing sound, and he looks out and he sees the silhouette of a shadow there, and he hears in his mind, my name is Koo or what, I can't remember the name.
Some Bigfoot sounding name.
Koss, I don't know. And he hears my name is whatever. And the guy says in his mind, flee, leave from me. I never want to see you again in the name of Jesus Christ. Something to that effect. And he never sees them again. And he never has any other intrusive thoughts or anything like that. But he knows that it was a Bigfoot.
Right.
He saw the silhouette. He felt the presence. He heard the voices. He felt the touch. He knew
his
the
son
feet.
saw the eyes.
His son saw the eyes. His son also confirmed that all of this really did happen, that his dad completely changed his attitude after that.
Because it wasn't a fun little experiment.
No.
This is the thing that people need to understand. Like one of the even criticisms of our show before we've gotten is people saying like, you need to be careful not to take undue interest.
Right.
And that's absolutely true. Like it's one of our principles. There's a distinction between we want to be able to tell stories really well because we think story is one of the most important weapons that the Christian has in a story, a universe that is a story told by God, to actually wield as a weapon of light against the enemies of God. But it is correct, and people need to understand that we don't tell these stories so that you can say, man, that's great. We're going to take an interest and we're going to go become a Bigfoot researcher. We're going to start doing ghost hunts and try to get EVPs on our recorders, and we're going to try to go and make contact with alien beings. No, it's like you need to understand that these things are real.
Right.
They're very real. They're spiritual, and they're deadly. You should not at any point attempt to contact. And people don't know. People think, oh, I'm just engaged in this.
Or people think it's harmless.
It's just
Do you remember
harmless.
the story of the old woman?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, in the cabin. And
Yes.
God bless. Bigfoot's like,
And Brian
I love
thinks
you.
Bigfoot's an angel.
I do not think for the record, I do not
So
think
this is
Bigfoot
where I
an
think we
angel.
should go. If we have time, maybe a retelling of the old woman's story at the very end of the episode, but we need to hear from you, Ben, in regards to the fairy.
Oh, yes. Okay, so my favorite category,
because we've talked about animal, hominid, and then we've talked about kind of spirits, the
Demon.
kind of, demon type, but that's not the only spirit category.
So I'll say this. I think that it could very well just be demonic.
Right.
And that's it. And that's the whole explanation. But I also think that there is great reason to believe that there's a category of an elemental spirit type being. And I think...
From Scripture.
Yes. I think that from Scripture, the Nile, the god of the Nile is a good example of that. Is an elemental spirit by all means. And it's fallen, which I think is interesting. But every culture up to about the Puritans in the 17th century, and actually including them, so it was after them that this went away, thought that there was a category of being called a fairy.
Yeah.
That was the colloquial term for it.
The longavy.
Now, the longavy, the long livers, which not like organ.
Yeah, not like a really long liver, but
Living for a long time.
Yes. And we'll do an episode on fairies. In that episode, I'll go over the different conceptions of what they were. But the basic category ranges anywhere from a neutral spiritual being, which I think is flawed in a number of ways, up to a spiritual animal that has a range of abilities, but has no reasonable soul, but can take different forms and things like that. That's the general conception of a fairy. And I would propose with King James, who wrote the one who commissioned the King James Bible. He didn't write it, but he commissioned it. In his pamphlet on demonology, he categorizes fairies strictly as demonic. He didn't like the idea of neutrality, which I understand. But I think that there could be some that are fallen and some that are not. And I think that one explanation for Bigfoot is that it's a spiritual being without a reasonable soul that is just doing its thing. That it's responding to threats.
And that is fallen.
Yes.
And so
because it's
malevolent,
because everything is cursed.
but with animal characteristics.
With
And
animal instincts.
Is it possible, though, that there could have been, melding a couple of these views here, that there could have been a fairy that that tethered itself at a certain point and really melded with a particular North American type of animal that was a hominid, that was strictly an animal, like what Brian was saying earlier. And now that animal has even died off, but the fairy ripple, reflection of that animal still exists, except now it's more spiritual than it is physical, although there are some physical components, and it's malevolent and not.
Yeah, I think that that's really possible. I also think that the fairy of category, or the category of fairy could still include a reasonable soul or something, or a reasonable intelligence. And so you could have overtly malicious, like fallen,
right?
Not just they are affected by the curse, but they have actively fallen. They have sinned.
They've rebelled.
Yes, I think that that's also totally possible. But we would conceive of that as just a demon.
Right.
Yeah, that's
but older people would conceive of that as something else, that it would be a fairy, and because it was never an angel.
Right.
And it was never the offspring of an angel. It was always something else.
Right. It's not the spirit of the Nephilim, the offspring of angels. It's not an angel itself. But maybe when God created the world, before things fell, before sin entered the world, that there really were river spirits.
Are you a beef jerky enthusiast? Well, then stop it. Seriously, stop it. Because Biltong is superior to beef jerky in every single way. It's a traditional South African meat snack, but it's free from all the preservatives, the sugar, and the soy. It's like the wagyu of jerky. Now, here's the exciting news from Farmer Bill's Provisions. Farmer Bill's is introducing their brand new product line for your enjoyment. We've got right here the traditional beef slab. You've also got, if you want a smaller portion, you've got the slices. It's just as much meat, but you're able to eat it in increments. This is for yourself as an individual, or maybe for you and your family, your kids. Then you've got the meat sticks. This is what, if you're a working man, you want a snack to keep in your pocket to eat, before lunch or something like that, grab one of their beef sticks and take it on the go. Lastly, you got to check out the tallow. For all the moms out there, my wife, she swears by this. Many women in our church say that it's a fantastic product. So don't waste any more time. Go to farmerbillsprovisions.com today to support a Christian-owned small business. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe so that you can save on multiple options and ensure that you and your family will never be without your favorites. And the last thing is this: if you want to get 15% off your purchase, all you got to do is type in the promo code Right Response. Again, the promo code, type in Right Response. So visit farmerbillsprovisions.com today and get 15% off your purchase.
The word soap makes Christian soap. What makes our soap Christian? First and foremost, it is because our soap is good soap, made exclusively from natural and organic ingredients. In addition to making a good product, we also promote a good message. Our bottles of soap aren't wrapped in heretical garbage. They're wrapped in sound doctrine and the infallible truth of Scripture. Lastly, we have a good mission. At The Word Soap, 10% of all our profits go directly to the godly men and women at Abolitionist Rising who are fighting to protect the lives of unborn children. Our product is pure, our message is true, and our mission is pleasing to Christ. So join us. Visit thewordsoap.com today. Again, that's thewordsoap.com. Everyone needs soap, so wash yourself in the Word.
That's another possibility, is that when we think about angels, the spiritual class of beings that is the angelic world, that we know there are ones that are thrown in heaven, and we've talked about this in our angel episode.
Seraphim.
I don't know which order it's going to come out, but that's one of them. We know there are angels or angelic beings that are very much focused heavenward, and ones that are more concerned earthward in terms of their assignment by God.
Right.
So
Watchers, messengers.
there's lots of categories of angels, and we don't know all of them, I think it's safe to say. So there very well could be a category of spiritual being that it's almost impossible for us to really make the distinction between this kind of
right. And what
fairy
if
type.
there is an angelic being, but its primary domain from inception was earthly, rather
Was just
than
earth.
a heavenly abode.
That's
They're
my view.
Angels are here in heaven, different classifications, types of angels, but that God actually created some, not just as messengers with momentary visitations, but some would actually, like a guardian of a forest.
Yeah, that's their job. They just like a guardian of a river or a guardian of a mountain. And to the modern
even-
mind,
and
you're like, that's crazy. That's
it's
insane.
like, that sounds
but
silly,
to Ben's
but-
point, this is how literally everybody thought.
Everyone
Right, and the
thought.
And
psalm
when
says, like, God has compassion on all He has made. God loves flowers, and He loves bees, and He loves birds.
Why wouldn't He say
like
that?
a sparrow does not fall without Him noticing? And the implication there is He notices and He cares, and He simply cares, exponentially more for you and I. But it's not that He doesn't care.
Right.
God likely. I don't know if I can make this argument. I think I probably could. That God cares more for sparrows than we care for our fellow man. Oftentimes,
Well, God's care is always perfect.
Yeah,
it's
because it's perfect care.
and it's not because He idolizes sparrows, or anything
No, he cares
like
about
that.
them in their proper order.
But He cares about them in their proper order.
He cares
but
more about people.
And we actually don't
Yeah,
care about
exactly.
anything in its
But
proper
what I'm
order.
saying is not that God cares for
We
sparrows.
have disordered affections.
I'm not saying God cares for sparrows more than God cares for people, but that God cares for sparrows more than we care.
Yeah,
right.
And so, anyways, but the point is, like, so that God would create a heavenly host of angels to be in heaven, but that He would, if He loves the world, it is good. It is good. All these things that He's made, to appoint some as their natural habit, that nature spirits, nature angels, forest ones, mountain ones, this and that and the other, water. Like, it's not a crazy
No.
Well,
idea.
I don't want to interrupt, but I'm tempted to leave it there.
Yeah,
as
I don't
a
want
teaser
to,
because
we're going to talk more about
so
fairies.
much that can
we're
be
doing a
said.
whole thing on fairies.
Yeah,
a
we're going
whole-
to talk about fairies.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, and so
Let's leave it.
There's a lot more that can be said, but if I'm not careful, I'm going to lose self-control. I'm just going to say it.
In favor of
Good
Bigfoot
job.
as more demonic, I think you have multiple lines of evidence. Putting the fairy thing aside, I think you have the story you just told is a great example. We have their association with other things that I think are clearly overtly demonic, like the UAP and alien phenomena.
Right.
To your point in the cold open, one of the popular theories is that Bigfoot is either an interdimensional being or an alien from outer space, which are melding more and
Or
more.
like an alien slave.
Yeah. But those ideas are melding even more and more, where one of the very popular rising conceptions of alien phenomena is not that they are extraterrestrials, but ultra-terrestrials, that they are interdimensional beings, not purely physical beings from another planet or galaxy, but a spiritual or an ultra-dimensional being that is able to travel via dimensional travel, portals, things like this. And the association you see, we get into it in our second Bigfoot episode, I think.
Yes.
Where you can go listen to the whole story about there are sightings where there is a UFO and then there is a Bigfoot. And you see a lot of the things that go with aliens that are overtly demonic, things like a feeling of dread, of existential dread in their presence.
Crazy dread.
Smells that are demonic smells that are associated with witchcraft, necromancy, Bigfoot sightings, and some
Sulfuric
aliens.
smells.
They cross over with satanic ritual abuse stories as well. So there's this nexus of phenomena that has similar forensic fingerprint, you could say, that it to me is the fingerprint of demons. And it crosses over heavily with Bigfoots to where I think it's probably likely that it's demonic in its origin, that at least, because again, demons can show you what you want.
Right.
They can show you the face that you're expecting superstitiously as well. So even if part of it is just Bigfoot,
Right.
demon, Bigfoot type of stuff, I think there's good reason.
So all
draw
that
that
being said,
conclusion.
it sounds like I think what I'm probably most sold on is the fairy explanation.
Yeah.
And so we need to go there and we're going to record on fairy. What I like the most is the hollow earth. And so what I feel like what we need to do is we need to land the plane and do a whole episode on fairies and see if by the grace of God we can somehow just weld together fairies, but also a hollow earth conception. But is there a final word from you, Ben, on this, or maybe even leaving the listener with a story?
Yeah, I'd love to tell the story of the old woman
cabin
from Kansas.
Yeah,
'cause
that's wild.
I actually think it's an amazing story. So I don't know the dates. I don't know the names because it was all anonymous. So take that for what you will. But there was a woman who lived in Kansas City, and she was married to her husband for many years. She was an older woman, and she really loved the outdoors. Her husband did not. So long before in their marriage, they had settled on a deal where every summer he would drive her out to their cabin in the woods and he would leave her there for a month. And he would just go back to Kansas City. It's the strangest scenario that I've ever heard for a marriage, but whatever.
Yeah, that's not good.
And yeah, it's not good. Not good fruit. But so she goes out there, she's looking forward to it. She's settling into the cabin again. She's, dusting everything because it's been so long, getting used to the smells. And she decides to go sit on her front porch and read a book. And as she's reading, the book starts to kind of shake in her hands and she can't quite hold on to it. And so she starts clenching a little bit and it stops. She's reading again. And suddenly the book just lifts up out of her hands and is floating in front of her. And then it throws itself across the porch and slams into the wall. She's freaked out naturally. And in her panic, she's looking all around and she looks out in front of her and sees that kind of it's far enough away to be down behind this grassy knoll. She can see the silhouette of a man's chest and head, or at least she thinks it's a man, but she knows that it would be an incredibly large man, and it's completely dark, not like a skin color, just like it's shadowy. She can't tell what actually she's looking at, but she starts to hear in her mind words like hello from a voice that's not her own, as if she's hearing it outside, but it's just in her head. Hello, I am your protector. I'm here to help you. I was playing a trick. Very like juvenile sentences, almost like one of those My First Reader books where it's just 3-word sentences over and over and they seem redundant and unhelpful. But she then starts to try and communicate back, but she can't really. Stuff like this keeps happening day after day. She sees the same figure. She realizes that it is really hairy. And she starts to conceive of it in her mind as a Bigfoot, like she's heard about. But she never knew that they could communicate just telepathically. And so she starts to actually be able to communicate herself with this Bigfoot. And she's constantly, and this is important, inviting the Bigfoot up to be with her. She's concerned that it's going to be cold. She's concerned that it's dangerous out there.
This is the sin of empathy.
Yeah, it is dangerous
Joe
out
Rigney
there.
is like
because of
right
him.
now.
And so, but the Bigfoot, to his credit,
Where's this husband?
I know.
Yeah.
The Bigfoot never obliges. never comes up and says, I am meant to watch you from a distance. That's what I'm supposed to do. So one night, she wakes up in the middle of the night. Actually, no, she didn't wake up. She was smoking a cigarette on the back porch. And she sees two men, kind of shadowy figures behind the shed. And she starts to freak out because clearly they don't want to be seen. She notices the first one, and then that first one is yanked back behind the shed by someone else. So she starts freaking out. She goes inside, locks all the doors, puts out her cigarette, turns off the lights, and goes and gets the .22 long rifle that's under the floorboard in the bedroom. And she thinks, I'm going to have to kill somebody, or they're going to kill me.
Right.
So she goes and hides behind the chair that's right next to the front door of the cabin. And it's backlit by a full moon, and she can see the silhouette of two men with top hats and cigarettes walking up on the porch, and they start to jostle the door handle. And they're jostling, and then nothing's happening. And so they start trying to like beat on the door a little bit and fiddle with the lock. Next thing she knows, they are screaming, deathly screams of pain and agony, and they are sprinting away from the house. And she doesn't get up until they're completely good. She can't even hear them screaming anymore. And goes outside and sees her friend now, the Bigfoot, walking back into the woods. And he sends her a message that says, you're welcome. God bless you.
Yeah, he says, God bless.
God bless you. And that's when Brian said, maybe Bigfoot's an angel.
Yeah, and then we said on social media now, everyone is going to say Brian thinks Bigfoot is an angel, which everyone now does.
But he isn't.
Which
And
I
Brian
do not
doesn't.
believe, for the record.
But the story ends with a pretty alarming situation. So one day, her neighbor down the road is running up to her house frantically. And she says, you got to leave. You got to call your husband. You got to go back to Kansas City. And the old woman's like, what are you talking about? Why? And she said, did you not see the lights last night? And the old woman says, no, she was asleep. And from her neighbor, she learns that the night before, there had been a huge light show over the woods that was around the property. UAPs, red, blue, green, white, all of these lights that were dashing about. They were making insane amounts of noise. They were making the trees almost fall over with the wind they were producing, but they had no sound, or they had no like helicopter sound.
Right.
And it wasn't safety lights from a plane. It was a UAP. It was a UFO. And the husband of this neighbor starts thinking, well, I got to go get to the bottom of this, because one of them starts to descend into the woods. And so he goes out with his gun and his flashlight, and then he comes running back with pale face, an expressionless look in his eyes. And his wife asks, are you okay? What's going on? And he just says, we can never come back here again. And he goes inside, and the next morning she goes and tells the old woman, and they leave. And right before the old woman calls her husband, the Bigfoot peeks his head out from the woods and says, that was me. And the old woman doesn't know what to make of it.
What do you make?
I don't know.
God bless.
Apart from that, it's nothing good.
Yeah.
Here's the
I
thing.
don't like it.
As we said, all these eyewitness encounters, some of them are completely made up. People make stuff up.
For sure.
You don't know.
Yeah, people lie.
People lie, but people don't only lie.
People lie, but people don't only lie. So there's always the element there. You're like, wow, that was too good of a story.
Right.
Like, this is too many elements that are just
that are coming together. But this is why I also like the idea of fallen spiritual entities, whether it's a demon or a fairy type, playing different roles.
Right.
And they actually are bound in some degree by a role that they have to play. And so a demon and a UAP are always associated because they're on the same team, but they're not the same players. I like that.
This is a Ben Garrett theory.
Yeah, it is.
All right. Well, tune in to future episodes. We're going to be talking about fairies. So we kind of, began to scratch the surface of that, but we're going to do an entire episode on fairies. If you want to see episodes ahead of time. So what we're doing is every Friday, once a week at 4 p.m. Central Time, we drop an episode. It'll be available at rightresponseministries.com, our website. It'll be available on YouTube. It'll be available on Twitter. But if you want to watch something ahead of time, you can actually get all the episodes. They're all pre-recorded and edited, produced. You can get them all in one foul swoop by joining us on Patreon. And not only can you get early ad-free access to binge watch the entire season, but you also can get some bonus episodes that go into more detail about Hollow Earth and some other topics as well. All right. Thanks for tuning in.
Real quick, right here at the end, I just wanted to remind you to become a member at patreon.com/Right Response Ministries. Exclusively for our Patreon members, we have all 10 episodes, early access, ad-free. Some of my favorite episodes to be looking forward to is episodes that deal with Bigfoot or fairies or ghosts or angels or giants, or particularly our episode on witches. If you want to watch these episodes now and you want to watch them without any ads, then you've got to join us by becoming a member at patreon.com/Right Response Ministries.